This meeting is being recorded.
Well, it's being recorded.
Yeah, there we are.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, good.
I think the AI companion is
Recording
does
everything.
it anyway.
Okay, great.
Right. Anyway,
Good
hello.
experiment. It's a good experiment.
Okay. I just need to make this go back to the
Oh, I can see Amy. Hello, Amy.
Hi, nice to meet all of you. I don't know if has Toby explained sort of who I am and
Nope. But that's okay.
So, why don't you introduce yourself, Amy?
Yes. That'd be great.
So I'm the sustainability and energy officer within the housing section. I've just kind of moved into the role, so I'm still sort of getting my head around things and getting to grips with it. But I've read the feasibility, the stage one, so I think I've got a little bit of background. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear more.
That's a good starting point.
Sorry, which department is this? Your sustainability officer within Lancs County Council, West Lancs.
West Lancashire Borough
Yeah.
Council, within the housing, within asset management.
Okay, great.
Good. Great. Okay, I'm just going back to the full slideshow a minute. And here we go. Right. Can everybody see the slides properly now?
Yeah.
As a proper slideshow? Excellent. So, hello, Amy. We are the Resilience Network. This is David and myself. So David Saunders, who's on the call, and myself. And there was meant to be a couple more people here, but clearly they're not here. And it was a late advertised meeting. I apologize. We were just trying to get something in. There will be other events, but we thought we'd just do something right at the end to just see how we get on. And actually, it's quite useful to have people from the council being here because it sort of teaches you where we are really. That's quite useful, actually. So we are ResNet for short. And this is a meeting about the Skelmersdale. We have Skelmersdale Community Energy Project, which has got various iterations. The feasibility that you have read, that you've just referred to, Amy, was done with a different organisation. Paul, correct me if I'm wrong. To SWLICAN, who have commissioned us to do the CEF2 sort of, or part of the CEF2 development of the further development of the feasibility. But let me just go through what we're going to say. So we're just going to say who we are, what we get to in terms of what the task was, where we, what happens next, and then if there's any questions, basically. So like I said, we are ResNet, and we have a little logo that's a puzzle because we think that there are lots of different things that come together. So it's climate resilience, there's news and events and things that are happening. There's resources on our website. We have lots of different partners we work with. We are based in Bristol, but we have links with Skelmersdale, so hence the Zoom meeting this time. But we have been up to Skelmersdale a few times, and yes, and we have members of our we're CIC. We have members as well, but more importantly, we're looking mostly relating to solar. That's where we are at. And I'll tell you in a minute what exactly we mean by that. So in the context of the original feasibility, the Skelmersdale community energy sort of ambitions involved turbines, ground mounted, solar and warm homes for 300 homes amongst other things. So it was quite involved and it needed quite a lot of things that it wanted to achieve. And part of that was about establishing a suitable organization that could hold all those assets and could do that. And lots of things have happened since then because that's, Paul, how old is that? 4 years? I want to say 4 years. It's not new anymore, is it? The original studies.
2023 it was completed.
3 years. Yeah. Okay.
But the work on it was older than that. It was,
yeah. So
a lot has changed, as you say. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of stuff has happened since then. So we, as an organization, are particularly keen on using the strength of households and involve householders and households and homes and rooftops of homes in energy generation. So another organization was in charge of looking at the turbine stuff, so that's separate from what we're going to be talking about. There's been some issues with the ground mounted simply because the original.
Iris, the little there's half a dozen things that were meant to come up, I think, around.
No, they're coming up in a minute.
Okay.
I'm talking about the wind turbines for a minute.
Okay.
Let's just say that next time I need an expert, when you are using an animation, you'll see what I mean in a minute, to get the way that it appears on your screen in the right order. I thought I was quite good at it, but I nearly threw my computer out the window earlier today because I did some fancy thing and then it didn't do what I wanted it to do. So I take your point, David, but I'll get to that in just a second. Otherwise, the screen is too full. So on the left here, sorry, on the right, we have the turbines and the things that we're going to be talking about in a minute. But in terms of Skelmersdale, as pointed out, there's lots of things that we looked at in terms of finding a way of harnessing collectively the energy that can be generated on rooftops domestically in Skelmersdale, and how that might work and what the advantages are and what that means, rather than having a fully funded program where essentially only a certain number of people can take part because of restrictions on who's eligible or restrictions on how much money there is. If there's less restrictions, it's normally either area confined or specific communities confined, whatever there's never enough money to do everything. Well, at least not in our experience, and certainly not with regards to solar panels and batteries, which is the generation capacity and the redistribution capacity of things. So we have looked at over the last, how long, David, altogether? 3 years?
Yes.
Yes, we have been pulling together lots of different strands of things that need to be considered together, and part of that fitted into the feasibility of the warm homes part of the Skelmersdale feasibility that was done originally. So we have things that need to happen in order to be able to harness that energy. So at the top, we have the homeowners and tenants, which would have to be issued with licenses and would have to be allowing for things to be put on their roofs, because the point is that people would be owning it collectively rather than individually as householders. That brings us to the co-op or CBS. There's still a jury out on that, which one is the better model, to hold the assets, to make it a community energy scheme that is owned collectively. Then you have all the underlying digital systems that you would need. I'm going clockwise here. Then the financial resilience, obviously you need to be able to, that's not spelt right. See, I know why we are ResNet and not resilience. See, it's not spelt right.
It looks
Terrible, Iris.
right to me.
Financial resilience. It looks wrong from here. Or is it right?
I think it's correct. Carry on.
It looks wrong. Anyway.
Carry on.
So there's capital, there's a revenue flow of money, and there's a community fund that we want to be able to have as part of that, so that when lots of householders are taking part, there's also money that goes into the general area of that solar scheme, which is then an urban solar scheme. There's obviously technology, hardware systems that need to be in. So you have the combination of the hardware and the digital coming together. And most importantly, in a way, is the community engagement, which is the work. So the work to do with communities to bring everybody on board to be part of that, which then takes you back to the top, which is people agreeing to do it, and the paperwork and the different things that are needed. So there are lots of different things that need to come together, and they all sit in the context of what's on the right, which is the three main sort of UK sort of government-led initiatives, which is the Warm Homes Plan, the Local Power Plan, and David will talk about that in a minute, and the Pride in Place, which Digmore's in Skelmersdale has been identified as one of the Pride in Place areas. Simply because that means there will be local initiatives, there will be a local board, there will be a particular emphasis on that area, which will make it able to look at it in a different, it will be an area that will be easier to find ways of engaging with people directly, because it will already have that infrastructure funded and in place. And then there's the so-called UK Solar Roadmap. It's the intention to use solar to further the renewable energy journey of the UK. Now that sits again within the context of the potential for energy sharing, which is when you have a scheme that is actually up and running and you have lots of households connected and you have an aggregated amount of energy that is in surplus, in excess of what is needed in each household. That can then be redistributed, in theory at least, can be redistributed to other householders that want to be part of the scheme. I won't go into the details of that. It's essentially the energy local model that can be incorporated into this. And with that, with the legislation going through, wind turbines and ground-mounted solar become relevant again. What I was going to say earlier is that the reason why ground-mounted, so wind turbines are dealt with by separately to us dealing with that. But the ground-mounted solar sites that have been identified are council sites. And Amy, I don't know what you in particular feel about this, but there's a potential for reform becoming the driving political force from May. And we are concerned, let's say, that council sites will effectively become unavailable by the election of reform because of their national policies that they're very strong on. So we are looking at that as a sort of second or third step to regroup, so to speak, and to look at other sites that aren't council owned, because they may still have a different way of getting through planning and being approved if they're not part of the council land. So looking at other landowners, basically. And that takes me to David, talking a little bit about the Warm Homes Plan and what that, how that fits in. Do you want to do that?
Well, I could say something about it. It's when we first heard about this idea from Paul, which was over a year ago now, it was that Paul had done this wonderful piece of work organizing a feasibility study to see what might be possible in Skelmersdale. And this work from consultants Prospers was looking at solar as field mount solar, as Iris has mentioned, and a wind turbine, and looking at doing something with warm homes. And this ended up, so the feasibility study was completed, and Paul wanted to take this to the next stage and sent out a request for interest. And a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, is an expert in Bristol on wind turbines, having put up a wind turbine, and showed me Paul's email in a cafe and said, we've got an inquiry from Lancashire, but we can't handle it because we only do wind. And so we ended up writing to Paul together and saying, between us, we might be able to do something useful, which is how this started up. And when we met Paul, it was with the idea that those founding ideas could be moved forward to the point where the government's plans for community energy would bring significant funding into the picture. So a little bit of what we've been doing for the last year has been figuring out how you would move from the potential identified in a feasibility study to an actual scheme. And what dropped out on the way was the wind turbine idea, because it's on land that a reform-led council probably wouldn't authorize for wind. But putting solar on households is a real possibility. And the government just 2 months ago launched its Warm Homes Plan, which is about making £15 billion available to improve households with retrofits. And then, but it's interestingly divided up into, as you can see from this table, it's boiler upgrades, which is fine if you've got a boiler, and we can put in a heat pump. And we didn't know that this is what the government was going to announce. So this is the new context in which we want to take what we've been developing and say, how can we use government grants? And we're already talking with a group in Bristol who are funding household retrofits about how we can add solar and storage to what they're offering to households. Whereas what we've been doing in Skelmersdale is developing solar and storage scheme and wondering if we can get grants for retrofits. So
yeah, if I can I just very quickly just to do our little pitch, well, not pitch, but the thing that we say is, so on the whole, you have people in the UK who are very able to do the retrofits that they need to do, and they have the money and they have it in the bank and they can just spend it. And they can do whatever they like to their homes because they have the cash or the ability to raise the money and they want to spend the money, and that's great. And then on the other side of that scale, you have the people who are entitled for various reasons to either have retrofit measures that are about insulation, as in energy saving measures, or energy generation measures that they're entitled to have. And that's the Warm Homes Plan stuff mainly. It's about the entitlement of people who do get freebies. And we're trying to make sure that we are including those in whatever we're doing, so there isn't a sort of division.
And I think what's actually, we may have the slides. This is historically how it's come, but the main thing is now the government has brought out. Have you got the next slide queued up?
Oh, sorry, yeah. This is the local power plan.
The local power plan has only been out a couple of weeks, and we have already been to a meeting that was set up by an energy group down in the southwest, Wessex Community Energy Network, with the government lead on the local power plan and with Community Energy England. And this is about making £1 billion in funding available for 1,000 local community energy groups. And there aren't 1,000 community energy groups.
No,
so,
not even.
And up until now, the government has made funding available at the level of £40,000 or £100,000 per scheme to develop business plans. And suddenly it's saying £1 million a scheme, which is wildly different. So we're
and some of that money is, and actually prior to this, most of the money was funding to get to the point of being investment ready. Now they're saying we will also make available loan funding that is repayable over time and will actually be the investors that are needed to make it work.
And GB Energy are making funding available to help remove the barriers to schemes.
Yeah.
And this is the first scheme that the Warm Homes scheme is about retrofits to increase energy efficiency in building. This scheme, the local power plan, is really specifically about renewable energy, and it strongly mentions domestic solar which
Yes.
is not normally featured in community energy projects. And it's been specifically what Resilience Network has been trying to develop, the idea that we make solar available to people at no cost to them, and that they then have access to the energy from their own roofs.
Yeah, we'll get through that in a minute.
At a reduced price. And this is what this is the point that Paul and I were hoping we would reach, and has now arrived, where a community energy group's been preparing such a project and the government is offering funding for such projects.
Yeah.
So this is the point of convergence and possibility, which is why it makes it sensible and appropriate to report our progress. We've progressed towards a point where the government has an offer that matches what we want for the community.
And because we think that this is something that can be, we want to make everything that we've learned available to other places. So if it works in Skelmersdale, it will work in other places. If it works in Bristol, it will work in other places. If it works in Birmingham, it'll work somewhere else. It might be slightly slight variances in how it works exactly. But the bit that I didn't say just now is that there's the middle part. So you have the people with the money and the people without, with the support from the government. And in the middle are loads of people that are the majority of people who haven't really got the right investment capacity to take out a loan and take out a new something to fund their energy generation with, in particular, even though there's a payback. So we're trying to pull together all sorts of different strands to make sure that everybody can have access to solar that is reasonably priced and can be affordable. And shall I just go into this for a second? So the point is, if you start at the top left, so if you have householders who are interested, you then make sure that they're based in the right place and in the right kind of the initial eligibility, because if they're in a tower block on the 13th floor, they're not likely to be qualifying for this.
Not so likely in Skelmersdale.
Not so likely in Skelmersdale, but I mean, they might not even be in Skelmersdale, so there has to be some basic eligibility. But then we're trying to get people together in clusters. They don't have to be neighbours, but so that we cut down on some of the installation assessment and scaffolding costs and that sort of thing, so that it's clusters of people. But other people talk about street by street or a sort of area approach, whatever it is, something that cuts down on some of the initial costs of installation. That will then, once you have identified those households, you then do a proper retrofit and roof assessment, and then there'll be a yes or no. You're back to the other side again. This needs improvement. This diagram, I apologize, but it does sort of make sense still. So you're starting again from the left, where the assessment outcomes are split into yeses and nos. If you're on the yes side, you go along and you can sign up for the solar and battery agreement. You switch to a tariff and a supplier that is recommended, because the battery in particular will be of more use to you under certain circumstances, and you can maximize your savings with the battery. And you schedule installations and have the systems installed and start savings. If your roof came back as being not suitable, or some other reason why you can't do it, then there are some other things that can be done, working with some partners to see if there's something that can be done to maybe put you into the next round, or if there's something simple that can happen to increase the likelihood of being eligible. So in reality, that means if your roof is leaking, for example, you can't put solar on it. It has to be fixed first. And if people need some assistance with so in some parts, and it's not just Bristol, but in some parts of the country, there are particular kinds of lending agreements that are particular to householders, allowing them to make improvements to their homes in a different way. And if something needs doing anyway, then that can be done. And then they might qualify at a later point to be a yes after all. But more to the point, there are other things that happen to everybody. So it's an ongoing stuff. There's savings, there's increased energy resilience, there's the system maintenance is included, the upgrade, any repairs and updates that are as appropriate, they're all included. And people can participate in the decision-making processes because they are part of the ownership model. And that's the important bit. You have somewhere, you have continuously a door to knock at if something isn't how you want it. It's different to having 5 people in your neighborhood who all have had the solar installed, but everybody's had a different installer. And if something goes wrong with your system and it's 5 years down the line and they don't exist anymore, the installers that you had installing the system, that makes it rather more complicated. So, yeah, we are saying there will be an entity which will be the co-op that will actually continually be there, and it can't just disappear.
And we we may have done the same thing again, which is introduce the detail before we introduce the simplicity and overview. Can you throw up the next slide for a moment, Iris?
Yep.
And this is how simple we want to make it for the people in Skelmersdale. And the idea is that you have a simple invitation that's telling you we're going to be running a scheme. It won't cost you anything up front. It will lower your bills. It will be owned by the community. And we invite people to come to a meeting that will explain how it works in simple terms. It will be, the area will have been, the households will have been pre-qualified before we know the area we want to work in. People will receive a leaflet. They'll be invited to come to a meeting, and they'll learn that they can get solar on their roof for free. They'll end up with a lower energy bill, and we will look after the scheme, and they will own it. It will be owned by the community, but without them having to handle the complexity. So the community will be working through its partners, which potentially are ResNet.
And it can grow in the things that it can do over time. Like I said, eventually it might include energy sharing with other households. It might include EV charging points. It might include other electricity connected things that the community can decide that it wants to be able to deliver. It's brilliant.
But we did this leaflet was produced by a little agency who did a similar leaflet for us in 2012 in Skelmersdale, where we put solar on 23 roofs in an estate called Lockleys, which...
Not in Skelmersdale, that was in Bristol, David.
So did I say Skelmersdale?
You did say Skelmersdale.
And what you're seeing on your screen is it's called Skelmersdale. That is our designer saying this is artwork that's not, he's saying, as soon as you're ready, I'll edit the word Skelmersdale and turn it into Skelmersdale, and you can distribute the leaflet. So that's just to show that it's a draft, an artist's conception of what we would do. But we used a similar leaflet in Bristol to recruit from an estate of a few hundred homes, and we successfully put solar on 23 roofs, and it's still running, and people love the scheme and get the energy. And so we're taking the learning from 12 years ago and bringing it forward.
Yeah, very good. So where are we at now and what is next? So we need a little bit more. So we're working on and have applied for further business planning funding prior to installation, because we're still pulling together some of those things. And I just wanted to mention the other thing that, for obvious reasons, because it said warm homes. So we haven't ignored the warm homes part. Heat pumps in particular are relevant, but we believe that firstly, a lot of householders have working gas boilers at present, and unless there's full funding, it's difficult for them to do it en masse in groups. But once you have solar installed and batteries, it makes the transition much less painful, because it works with this energy savings in a much better way than without solar.
We may be able to work this in with the Warm Homes Plan.
Yes.
Which we simply did not know about up until a few weeks ago.
Yes. So it's we're concentrating on making the solar work financially and technically and digitally and all those things and expandable, so that it can be the base from which other things can be drawn and been improved in neighbourhoods. The next in Skelmersdale in particular, we've got the Pride in Place money, and we've got local groups that we're already in touch with. Paul is part of SWLICAN, and that's who commissioned the original work. We've got co-creation aims, which means there are some decisions that need to be made locally, and local people need to be involved in making those decisions, not just, but including things like what to spend the community fund on that is going to be raised from all the households that are taking part as a small contribution, to be able to have some resilience money going into neighbourhoods in general as well. So keeping money in the neighbourhoods really is the overwhelming message. And then to finalise systems and to pull it all together, like I said. So that's the co-op, the hardware, the software, the agreements, the people, the homes, and the capital funds, and then start installing. And we're nearly there. It's quite close. And then we can start with people saving and not being as vulnerable to the ridiculous things that are happening in the world currently. There we are. Questions? Right.
Thoughts?
That's us. Hello. When we went into Skelmersdale and we're on our walk around.
I just had a couple of points.
Yeah.
I just had a couple of points, Iris.
Of course, yes.
I'll do introduction first because it kind of got missed at the start. But thank you for coming, Amy. It's really good of you to come along to this. As Iris has said, this is a sort of first meeting as this part of the project finishes up, kind of stuff, and we move into the others. I am not in Bristol. I'm in Ormskirk actually tonight. So if I'm very happy to bob down to Ormskirk. I guess you're based at 52 Derby Street and have a chat with you. But I think probably prior to that is actually we've got the final report on this phase, which I understand from Iris is in the offing kind of stuff. We've got a draft. It just needs finishing off. So it might be useful for you to have that, and then I'm happy to come and have a chat with you more directly, Emmy, about where it might go. One other thing which just for clarity on the wind stuff, which has at least for now been put on the back burner, although that's not very climate safety issue, is it? Is that one of the reasons is that actually the key sites became unavailable. It wasn't actually anything to do with the politics. It was actually the council has decided through Tord Valley Developments to put it to field solar use itself, which is fine, but it left us without that option moving forward. The ground solar has been mentioned as why that's slightly on the back burner. So I'm really excited about stuff going forward. I'm happy to sort of my time as a sort of employee SWLICAN is slightly coming to an end now, but happy to have chats going forward as long as I'm able. The other bit of it, which is new news actually about 3 hours ago, is I've got a bit of a briefing lined up with the MP Ashley Dalton on
Excellent.
Monday, just to sort of tell her where we're up to without overburdening with masses of detail, but also
Great.
just talking to her about the potential for some engagement with the Pride in Place programme, which is there for 10 years, so offers stability and potentially, good governance links and stuff like that. Obviously, that's restricted to one area, Skem, and in time we'll be working across Skem. The solar will be going up across Skem and indeed across West Lancashire, or whatever West Lancashire looks like from.
And she is MP. She's MP
August 2028.
West Lancs.
She's MP for the whole area, right, Paul? So
yeah. West Lancashire.
She'd be interested in seeing this spread where it can.
Yeah, she will. Yeah, I mean, the briefing is just about to connect in with the bride and place stuff.
That's great.
But obviously she's not daft. She'll see the bigger picture.
Yeah, great.
So that's my side of things. In classic form, less of a question, more of a comment.
Great.
And we've also got with us Neil Burston, who's a chum from Bristol, who's now moved to Evesham, and he's developing a project that we talked about this a lot, and he's developing a project that has some similarities. Are you able to speak, Neil, or are you still traveling somewhere?
That's the answer to that.
There you go.
Unless you're trying to speak, Neil, in which there you are.
Yes, I am trying to speak. Unfortunately, I've arrived where I'm at, and I'm having to do some DIY, but I'm multitasking. So, but yeah, it all sounds great, and can't wait to replicate it. Basically,
Great.
And there's our solar energy consultant, Andy O'Brien, who's a founding chairman of Bristol Energy Co-op down here, who's been involved in a lot of community projects, has been a consultant to a group in Wilmslow who are hoping to put solar on 700 homes. And when where we asked him, well, what are you doing in Wilmslow? He said, oh, well, you know, what you're doing in Skelmersdale, same thing.
Yeah.
And so this model has the potential to, well, the man from GB Energy was saying they are looking to do what Community Energy England call community energy in a box. They want a replicable model that makes it, you can't have 1,000 new energy groups if it's really, really hard to set up an energy group. But if there's a kind of cookie cutter model that you can say, like Skelmersdale, like Wilmslow, then we're hoping that will be the case. And good to see you again, Paul. It's been a while. How does this sound to you, Paul?
Paul? Which Paul? Me?
Yeah, you, Paul.
Paul McConnell.
Paul McConnell.
Yeah. Well, for me personally, it sounds brilliant. When we started this,
Oh,
I
you're there,
thought this.
Paul. Sorry, hold on a second. You're there twice for some reason.
I thought that before.
Could you get rid of one?
I'll try.
I think maybe from 2 different devices or something. I don't know. It's very echoey otherwise.
Got any better? No, it's not. I'm only on. I'm only on one.
Mute one of them.
You probably just logged in twice, Paul, but no.
Possibly. I'll just have a quick. Got any better? No.
It sounds better, I think. Is it?
Got any better?
Yeah, just try to see how we go.
Okay. For us personally, I was thinking this was going to be another 3 years away. But the government bringing out this new project, 15 billion, it's going to be quicker.
Yeah.
And for me personally, with the clients we deal with, they can't come quick enough. The level of poverty, and the clients that we're seeing every day, this type of project could mean so much in terms of saving money.
Yeah.
I'll keep it short. Sorry.
No, that's great, and that's what we are deliberately also, just to make it clear. So as ResNet, when we started off our organisation, we look, it's resilience that we're after, and it's resilience in neighbourhoods where people, on average, can't really afford to deal with the shenanigans that are going on in the world. And can't deal with the price increases and the different volatilities that are being placed on people's purses, that they just can't cope with it.
No.
And hopefully a scheme like this will give a lot more stability and savings that are more ongoing.
We believe so. We believe anything that can reduce fuel poverty, which for me, I've got total faith in this. I do see. I know it's not going to be next week, but I know in the near future, and it's not going to be the far future,
No,
especially in the Digmore area. But them getting
yeah,
that
it's great.
resilience money, it's going to be amazing. But I want to ask another question, if that's okay, Iris.
Of course.
I don't know, and Paul will know. But currently we're going through a negotiate. Well, I'm saying the council, West Lancs, with Chorley, with the county council, with South Ribble, about a potential merger within the next 12, 18 months.
Mhm.
This is standalone, isn't it? This will not, whatever happens with this project, it stays in West Lancashire. It shouldn't be affected by a merger between Chorley and South Ribble.
It will be up to, so let's say it starts in Digmore or in a couple of neighborhoods in Skelmersdale. It will
Yeah,
be up to the people who are part of that and the management of that particular new organization and the way that it works. It'll be up to them to decide who else and what other areas to start
right,
including. So
right.
it'll be almost like growing organically. So if they at some
Yeah,
point decide they want to be a bit bigger to have a bit more clout,
yeah,
they can do that, or they can decide not to do that.
right, okay. So I think I was getting at there's going to be really no top-down pushing by county council on any of this.
Well, I keep saying that this way removes it removes the government and it removes large corporations
Well, I'm all
from
for
the
that then, yeah.
equation. And not
Yeah,
entirely, there are
yeah,
still points where they're relevant, of
yeah,
course, but
yeah.
essentially it becomes a non-political, non-corporate so it's no longer
Entity.
as dependent on because people can still choose suppliers, for example. So you're still
Yeah,
part of you're not dependent on anything in particular. Yes, there are funding. It may be at some point that there's some particular part of the project where you have to be geographically oriented because where the money is coming from and going to.
yeah.
But overall, it shouldn't be a problem.
Oh, brilliant. That's good to hear then. Thank you. Thank you.
It's how it's been designed. And also we are putting a lot of effort into looking at open source licensing, how to make
Mm,
sure that yes, it's replicable, but that it's protected as well, and that it can be properly copied, and that it's a kit that can be
mm.
accessed as a whole, and that there's support available to do that in other areas.
I think that will be important moving forward
Yeah.
when trying to deal with community um, directly. It's a really good approach.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
something that governments really miss out on. But the fact that we're engaging with the community pretty much from day one and getting them on board from day one.
When we started designing this, Paul,
Yeah,
we were bearing in mind what we had done in this estate in Bristol, Lockleys, was we were talking to a neighbourhood group there, Lockleys Neighbourhood Trust.
yeah,
We went through them to meet people in the community, and we designed the scheme to be a cooperative owned by the community.
yeah,
And the council liked it, and indeed Lockleys was part of a government big local scheme, or rather it was being looked at under David Cameron's localism initiatives. But
That's 17 prime ministers ago.
yeah. But they liked what we were doing. We got a
yeah,
lovely letter from
yeah,
Nick Hurd, who was Minister for Communities, saying, "Gosh, it's so hard to do stuff in communities, and it's great to see communities figuring out how to do things for themselves." And this is the same. We started designing this under the Sunak government, with the idea that what if the government never does anything? Can
Yeah.
we figure out how to provide community-owned energy funded by money raised by the community, owned by the community? And the answer is this will only work if the solar energy pays for itself. But the numbers stack up now, so the scheme becomes possible.
And also to add to that, that the whole point was to design something that wasn't dependent on the government, not so much if the government isn't doing anything, but also if the pressures on governments are such that they are not in a position to do any long-term things. Because if you think about things like COVID, I mean, COVID is an extreme example, but from one day to the next, everything that was long-term stopped and everything that was today was funded, because today is when people needed to eat and heat and do their thing. And if that increases, that today needs to be funded and not long term, then projects like this and ways of doing things that are longer term financially feasible is a much better way of supporting neighborhoods and themselves supporting themselves and not being reliant on the outside.
I think I think government, councils, and in general underestimate how many the skills that are within the community.
Yes.
Passion. We live here. We're part of it.
Yeah.
And there's a skill set there for almost any project if someone took the time to engage. And I think that was the thing with this project. When speaking to Paul in the early days, it felt really flight of fancy 18 months, 2 years ago, whatever it may be. The fact that we're here, I thought was going to be there 3 to 5 years away. So I'm pleased that we got to today.
That's brilliant.
I've got patience for that.
Yeah.
I think it is maybe worth saying we haven't done as much talking to people within the communities as we thought we might have done at this stage.
No.
But my fear has always been, if you don't go with a really concrete idea, then you're going to get blown away, because there can be a lack of trust about this kind of stuff. And I think now we're at the point where we really have a pretty solid model in hand, where, that the badly spelt leaflet kind of stuff by the designer, is where it's at now. We're nearly at the point where we say, actually, we know really well what's going to happen and where the money's going to come from to make this happen. Whereas earlier, if we'd gone with what you might have called wishy-washy stuff, saying, we're thinking about this, thinking about the other, I think we're now really at the point to get people more involved than perhaps we were a month or two back.
And Paul McConnell, I don't know if that's the same in Skelmersdale. I expect it is the same in most places. What people don't like is you coming up saying you have a great idea and then nothing happening.
Yeah.
People find that more frustrating than anything else.
In Skelmersdale, it's historical, to be honest.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm saying. And that's historical in many places that are in the sort of deprivation brackets of whatever city or town.
Yeah.
If you overpromise is not great.
That's right. Just while we're on, and just while everyone's here, for me to thank Paul for all the work he's done.
Yes, thank you, Paul.
Absolutely, yeah.
Totally appreciated. Thank you for asking us to get involved from day one, Paul. You've done a lot of great work, and we do appreciate it, and I can. So, thank you.
I'll sign stuff off with you individually, Paul. But thanks for the kind words. Yeah.
Thank you, Paul.
Amy, just coming back to you, as I say, I'll send you an email just for contact if you want to have a chat about anything. I think it's probably Toby who's brought you into this initially, because I think the email probably went to him. But happy to have a chat with both of you, that kind of stuff, because I've not seen Toby for a bit.
Amy,
that'd be great.
Do you have any questions?
Do you know, with the funding of the Warm Homes Plan, are you aware of the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund?
Yes.
That's the main sort of retrofit that the council are using at the moment. I think under that we've got a plan we're prioritising solar.
Yes.
Fairly decently.
So what we're doing, so what we are hoping is that in working with the council so where you have different tenure, at the moment you would only be able to target the people who live in council homes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody, the other 50% miss out. Mm-hmm. Roughly, it's about that. It's about 50% from memory in most areas that were former council estates, and we are saying let's find a way of being able to include council tenants in the scheme that they're entitled to be part, and find a way of doing that and do it collectively as a coherent model, where the people that own their own homes, they don't get them for free, but they still get a free installation and get a different way of taking part, and they are part of the co-op, and that there are different ways of including people in the in the sort of build up of energy resilience in that area, and that people who live in private tenancies will also be able to take part in our scheme, so they're not excluded.
It's a matter of being able to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Everybody in the community can be involved and included. So it's not, if you're a council tenant, you're lucky. And we've had discussions with the council here, and they say, well, if we did a solar scheme, it wouldn't be for everyone because some people's roofs aren't suitable for solar. And so it wouldn't be fair. And then it becomes, and so we're not going to do anything. And we've thought about this long and hard and said, actually, if you look at there's this scheme in Wales called Energy Local in Bethesda, where the energy from a hydro scheme is shared between people living on an estate. And it's shared fairly by the energy being sold through the local energy company to the members of this club. And we can do the same thing. We can put
with excess. We can do that with excess energy.
Yeah. Well, we can put solar across. We can put as much solar as you like, or as much solar as we can, across a whole estate, and then share it fairly with everybody in the estate. And that can include different ownership models. It could include solar from people who've already got solar on their roof, who want the solar shared. So it's a matter of creating the technical phrase is you're creating a virtual microgrid.
Yeah. So we would be really interested in filling that gap and making sure that when the council is delivering on the warm homes plan and the elements within that, in particular, that we find ways of, for example, an installer, the sort of practical end of that is finding installers that can install for the council and can install for the co-op. And not indiscriminately, but actually do both jobs within an area. So that there's a
7 o'clock finish, Iris. So I'm going to have to go, I'm afraid. Can I just go and just before I head off? Amy, thank you. I'll drop you an email. I'm really interested in picking up on that. So the social decarbonisation fund aspect specifically, but I'll just do an intro email.
Do you have my email address?
I can probably guess it. Is it amy.mitchell@leftblanks.gov.uk?
It is indeed, yes.
Yeah. I'll copy Toby in as well. That's all right. Just
that'd be great.
Because I want to catch him up with him on the climate action fund stuff as well.
Brilliant.
But I'll have to head now.
If you're going, let's call it an evening then, and thank everybody for being here.
Yes, thank you. And is there any other questions anybody has? Amy, anything else in particular?
Just quickly, when's the report, the next report due out? Or are you just reviewing it?
So we will be producing a final report in the next few days, weeks, few days.
Okay.
To make sure that it's got everything that we can pull together in it. We have a draft report, but I would want that to be the final.
Yeah.
So we will make it available to you.
That'd be great.
And I've started putting together a draft application expressing interest to GB Energy, and it's possible there will be another funding round before the GB Energy money becomes available. So we'll find out, and we'll
see.
In touch, and it will be part of the project.
Can I just say big thanks to you guys for doing all this work. It's I can very nearly feel we'll have a nice Easter present rather than a Christmas present, all wrapped up in a box with a bow. So really looking forward to it.
Great.
Getting going with it all. Thank you, guys.
Good, Neil. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. It's been lovely to meet everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.